They say blood is thicker than water. From the day we're born, we're taught one universal truth: family comes first. It's supposed to be our foundation, our safety net, the one bond that never breaks. But what happens when that bond is the thing breaking you? Right now, across America, and honestly, all over the world, there's a silent epidemic happening. It's unfolding inside millions of homes, yet it's still one of society's biggest unspoken taboos. Adult children are making the gut-wrenching decision to cut ties with their parents. Siblings are fading into silence. It's called family estrangement. From the outside, it looks like rebellion, an ungrateful child, an abandoned parent. But if you look closer, past the silence, you almost never find a simple story of anger. What you find instead is a deep, complicated psychology of survival. Why do people really do this? Is it impulsive, or is it a last-ditch attempt to protect their own sanity? In this video, we're diving deep into the psychology of family estrangement. We're breaking down the myth of the sudden cutoff, unpacking the slow build of cumulative trauma, and exposing the toxic dynamics, from emotional neglect to narcissistic control, that make no contact the only option left. If you're struggling with guilt or trying to understand why someone you love walked away, this is the explanation you've been searching for. This is the truth behind the silence. Let's start. Estrangement almost never starts with a blow-up. It starts with erosion, slow, quiet, almost invisible to everyone except the person living inside it. For years, sometimes decades, the relationship looks normal from the outside. Birthdays get celebrated, holidays get survived, smiles show up in photos. But under the surface, something is being worn down layer by layer. Not because of one massive incident, but because of hundreds of small ones stacking up like sediment at the bottom of a river. Psychologists call this microtrauma, the criticism disguised as concern, the boundary that gets pushed just a little farther every year. The dismissive tone that quietly tells you your feelings don't matter, the constant pressure to be who they want you to be instead of who you actually are. On their own, these moments seem small. Together, they create an emotional climate, and over time, your body starts reacting before your mind does. You tense up before the phone even rings. You rehearse conversations before family gatherings. You make yourself smaller just to keep the peace. What you once called family dynamics slowly turns into chronic anxiety woven into everyday life. This is the erosion most people never see. Estrangement doesn't happen because someone suddenly stops caring. It happens because they slowly run out of capacity, out of energy, out of hope, out of space to keep absorbing the same wounds. Before the break comes exhaustion, and before exhaustion comes years of being worn down. This is the real beginning of estrangement. Not anger, depletion. From the outside, estrangement often looks sudden, like someone woke up one morning, got mad, and disappeared. Parents say it came out of nowhere. Friends say, but everything seemed fine. That's the volcano illusion. A volcano only looks sudden to people who weren't paying attention to the pressure building underneath. Lava doesn't appear overnight. It forms silently over years until the mountain can't hold it anymore. Family estrangement works the exact same way. The last argument, the holiday meltdown, the one comment that crossed the line, those aren't the cause. They're just the moment the pressure becomes unbearable. To the parent, it feels like, you cut me off because of this. To the adult child, it sounds like, no, I'm stepping away because this has been happening for 20 years. It only looks sudden because the suffering was silent. Estrangement isn't a reaction, it's a culmination, the release of pressure that couldn't be contained anymore. And once the volcano erupts, nothing is the same. Long before distance ever happens, many people have already been forced into roles they never agreed to play. In dysfunctional or narcissistic family systems, identity isn't discovered, it's assigned. And those roles shape a child's entire emotional reality. There's the golden child, the extension of the parent's ego, praised, protected, idealized. Their job is to live out the family's success story, even if it costs them their authenticity. Then there's the scapegoat, the one blamed for problems they didn't create. Often the truth teller, the emotionally aware one who refuses to pretend the dysfunction is normal. Ironically, the scapegoat is usually the healthiest person in the system, and the first one pushed out once they stop carrying everyone else's shame. Then there's the invisible child, the one who survives by disappearing, staying quiet, needing nothing. Learning early that attention isn't safe, they grow up fiercely independent but quietly unsure if they even deserve to take up space. And maybe the heaviest role of all, the parentified child, the emotional caretaker, the mediator, the peacekeeper carrying responsibilities way beyond their age. These kids grow up believing love has to be earned through service, sacrifice, and silence. None of these roles allow a real self to form. They create patterns of guilt, obligation, and emotional shutdown that follow someone straight into adulthood. And when someone finally steps out of the role, when they try to be a whole person instead of a family function, the system pushes back. It resists, it blames, it punishes. Because in families like this, the moment you reclaim yourself is the moment you become a threat. For many people, estrangement isn't about leaving their family, it's about escaping the role that was destroying them. Some wounds bleed, others don't. And the ones that don't are often the ones that shape us the most. Emotional neglect is quiet. No bruises, no scenes, no clear moment you can point to and say, that's when it happened. It's defined by what never happened. The comfort that never came. The protection that wasn't there. The curiosity about your inner world that no one ever showed. Growing up without emotional attunement teaches a devastating lesson. Your feelings are either too much or not worth noticing. As adults, these same people often look strong, independent, even unfazed, while carrying a private ache that never fully leaves. This is the empty well. You keep going back, hoping maybe this time you'll finally draw water. Maybe this time they'll listen. Maybe this time they'll ask how you really are. Maybe this time they'll meet you where you've always reached for them. But every visit ends the same. A dry bucket, a hollow chest. The same old disappointment. Most people don't leave because of what their parents did. They leave because of what their parents could never give. Because returning to an empty well over and over eventually becomes self-abandonment. Estrangement isn't about rejecting family. It's about finally stopping yourself from thirsting for a kind of love that was never there. The pain of what happened can heal. The pain of what never happened takes longer, because you're grieving a childhood you never got. If estrangement looks sudden to outsiders, the staying is even harder to understand. Why do people endure years, sometimes decades of pain before walking away? Two powerful forces, trauma bonding and the hope cycle. Trauma bonding forms when harm is mixed with warmth. A cruel comment followed by an apology. Cold silence followed by rare affection. A crossed boundary followed by promises of change. Your nervous system learns to confuse inconsistency with love. You start believing that if you just try harder, give more, stay calmer, you'll finally earn the parent you needed. That's the hope cycle. It keeps you waiting, forgiving, going back to situations that slowly dismantle your sense of self. Hope isn't the problem. The problem is that the hope is always about who they could be, not who they consistently are. Many adult children stay because they were taught that leaving is betrayal, that protecting themselves is selfish, that wanting peace means they're the problem. So they endure, they shrink, they rationalize, they wait for the breakthrough that never comes. When someone finally walks away, it's not because they stopped loving their family. It's because they realized the cycle wasn't going to change, and staying meant losing themselves 1 year at a time. Estrangement often begins with a brutal realization: if I stay, I disappear. When people hear no contact, they often imagine punishment or revenge. But distance is rarely about anger. It's about survival. And it doesn't always look the same. Some choose low contact, shorter calls, fewer visits, surface-level topics. It's a way of saying, I still care, but you don't get full access to my inner world anymore. Others use gray rock, becoming neutral, predictable, emotionally unreactive. Not because they're cold, but because reacting feeds the old patterns of guilt, control, and chaos. And then, after years of trying, some choose no contact, not because they hate their family, but because every softer boundary was ignored. No contact becomes the last tool left. The only way to stop the cycle, protect mental health, and rebuild identity. Psychologically, distance brings grief, guilt, and relief all at once. You grieve the parent you hoped for, feel guilty for wanting peace, and finally breathe when the chaos stops. Distance isn't rejection, it's clarity. It's the moment someone says, I can't change you, but I can protect myself. For many, it's the first time they actually feel safe. People assume the hardest part of estrangement is the separation, but the deeper pain, the one no one talks about, is the grief that comes after. Ambiguous loss is grieving someone who's still alive, still walking around, still posting holiday photos, but emotionally unreachable. There's no funeral, no closure, no ritual to help you move on. Just an ache that lingers. You're grieving not just the relationship you lost, but the one you never had. The parent who might have protected you, understood you, loved you without conditions. Letting go of that imagined parent can feel like losing them twice. Then come the holidays, empty seats, quiet mornings. Everyone else wrapped in warmth, while you carry an invisible grief no one knows how to comfort. And still, there's relief. The anxiety is gone. The chaos has stopped. Your nervous system finally exhales. But relief often comes with guilt. Like choosing peace means betraying the people who raised you. This is the emotional cost of freedom. Choosing yourself over history isn't easy. It isn't simple. But for many, it's the only way to stop carrying pain that was never theirs to hold. Healing begins when you realize you can grieve what you lost and still move toward the life you deserve. For many people, estrangement isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a life they were never allowed to fully live. Once the noise fades and the guilt softens, something unexpected emerges, a sense of self buried under years of roles and survival strategies. Reclaiming identity isn't sudden. It's slow, gentle, intentional. You start asking questions you were never allowed to ask. What do I want? What do I enjoy? What actually feels safe? For the first time, your choices aren't filtered through fear. You stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for existing. You learn to trust the inner voice that was silenced for so long. Healing also means breaking the cycle. Many people step away not out of resentment, but clarity. This ends with me. They refuse to pass on emotional starvation or conditional love. They learn to parent themselves with compassion. And if they have children, they offer a safety they never received. Along the way, something beautiful happens. You build a family of choice, partners who listen, friends who feel like home, communities built on respect and honesty, people who love you not out of obligation or DNA, but because they choose you. This is where the cycle really breaks. Not when you leave the family you were born into, but when you create the family your spirit always needed. Reclaiming yourself is an act of courage. Choosing your own family is liberation. Together, they build a life defined not by pain, but possibility. In the end, estrangement isn't about breaking a family apart. It's about redefining what family means. For some, family is who raised them. For others, it's who finally made them feel safe. Both can be true. Walking away doesn't mean you're heartless. It means you stopped walking back into the fire just because you were told to. You chose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, healing over history. That choice is painful, but deeply brave. You're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to build a life shaped not by old wounds, but by the love you choose and the future you're finally claiming. If this video made you feel seen, even a little, know this: you're not alone. Thousands of people are walking this same quiet, complicated path. If you want to stay connected, consider subscribing. We explore the hidden corners of the human heart here every week, and if you're comfortable, share your story in the comments. Someone else might find strength in it. Take care of yourself. You deserve to heal.